Good afternoon. Welcome to Richmond Community Schools and today's Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony for the class of 2024 inductees. My name is Brian Walmsley. I have the honor and privilege of being superintendent for Richmond Community Schools. Today's event, like so many others, would not have been possible if not for the brave men and women who are currently serving, have served, or who ultimately gave the ultimate sacrifice, protecting our freedoms and liberties that we enjoy and cherish today. Please join me as we do in each and every day in Richmond Community Schools with our over 1,700 students and stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is a special time for our community impact on our school and beyond. They are more than just achievers, they are inspirations. They represent the spirit of Richmond, showcasing relentless pursuits of excellence in every aspect of life. Our Academic Hall of Honor inductees have blazed trails in their fields, driven by curiosity, determination, and unquenchable thirst for knowledge. They have not only found success, but also have made meaningful contributions and inspire current and future students. They remind us that education is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. Our Athletic Hall of Fame inductees are heroes in their own right, champions not only in the sport, but in spirit. They embody perseverance, teamwork, and grace. These athletes remind us of the values of pushing us to our limits and the power of humility, recognizing coaches, teammates, and supporters who have helped them achieve greatness. Today, we honor these incredible individuals, their achievements, their contribution, and their legacy. May they inspire each of us to strive for greatness in our own lives and continue to uplift the Richmond community for generations to come. Our Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame inductees represent the highest ideals of our school, a true testament to the spirit, resilience, and excellence that defines Richmond Community Schools. These individuals embody the pursuit of greatness in both mind and body, illustrating a holistic education that cultivates in every aspect of life. As we celebrate these remarkable individuals today, let us reflect on how their journeys are a part of our rich history. They are proof that our school story is not just one of classrooms, sports fields, or academic accolades. It's a legacy of individuals who dare to reach beyond the ordinary. May their achievements be a source of inspiration, urging each of us to dream big, work tirelessly, and leave our own unique mark on this incredible journey. Today, Preston Trend, Director of Athletics, Facilities, and School Safety, is not able to join us today because he's spending time with his wife and his new son, just recently born this week. So congratulations, Preston. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Margaret Telto, President of the Richmond Education Foundation and Vice President of the Richmond Board of Education, and Buzz Schmidt, member of the Athletic Hall of Fame Selection Committee, to continue today's ceremony.
Thank you, Mr. Walmsley, for those great, kind words. The Academic Hall of Honor and the Athletic Hall of Fame started last year, was our first event, and it came about by conversation between Preston Trend and myself about talking about knowing people that we either graduated with, graduated before or after us, who had just gone on to do great things, and how we don't recognize them here in Richmond. So we came together, Preston on the athletic end and myself with the Education Foundation on the academic end, came up with this idea, took it to Mr. Walmsley, who was in favor of it, and then we went to the Board of Education to ask for their approval. we needed some funding. Preston came together with this fabulous video board that is by the gym, that we are plunking in all the names of athletes, academic people, things that they have done, and putting in our Hall of Honor inductees. It's really exciting to stand here today and see all the people that are out again this year, because it shows me how Richmond is such a great community and how much we love and want to showcase those that did great things on the athletic field and those that did amazing things in the classroom and beyond. It's a privilege to be able to stand here today and honor those people. So thank you for coming. Thank you to my Richmond Education Foundation members who helped make this happen. We have Sandy Fortuna, Julie Jagoda, and Joe Schultz here with me tonight. So thank you to them, to the Board of Education, and to Mr. Walmsley for helping making this event happen.
Thank you, Margaret and Brian, for the introduction today. On the athletic side, a link was shared to the community for online forums where they could be and submit nominees for one of 4 categories in the Hall of Fame. The athlete, those who distinguish themselves on the field in some manner; coaches, those leaders of teams whose successes created a lasting impact on their program; teams, those teams whose successes brought pride to our community and also left a lasting impact on the teams to come; and a program contributor, those people who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make our athletic programs the shining example of everything that Richmond represents. Committee members selected the nominees from each category they felt were the most deserving of the induction. A discussion took place and then voted upon. Following up the inaugural class last year would be a tall task for this class. As for the nominations that were not selected this year, they will be reviewed again during the selection committee next summer, along with any new nominees. The link is still available in the district website under the Athletics tab, but we are excited to honor our Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2024 this afternoon.
This afternoon, I get the privilege of recognizing our first inductee into our Academic Hall of Honor, and that is Dr. Ryan Shinska. Dr. Shinska is a 2001 graduate. He received his bachelor degree in movement science and his Doctor of Dental Surgery from the University of Michigan. He was his 2010 dental class president. After graduation from the University of Michigan, Dr. Shinska moved to Louisiana and helped the underserved in Baton Rouge. Dr. Shinska started a Hope Smiles clinic in Uganda and spent 8 years there providing dental care to those in need. His purpose in Uganda through Hope Smiles was to start a dental practice that would be 100% sustainable for the local dental professionals after he moved back to the United States. This goal was accomplished, and currently 35,000 people in Uganda are receiving much-needed dental care due to Dr. Shinska's efforts and the Hope Smiles organization. While in Uganda, Dr. Shinska was serving oral health needs in unreached areas, freeing patients from tooth-related pain and giving them the confidence that comes with oral health in areas where that wasn't previously possible. Equipping and empowering Ugandan dental professionals to do the same. Creating replicable, sustainable models for the delivery of quality, compassionate, accessible dental care that transforms lives in under-resourced nations around the world. He is currently living in Nashville and is the clinical director for Hope Smiles, as well as working in his own dental practice. Dr. Shinska believes in using his gifts to serve others and believes that that is his true purpose in life. He is truly an excellent role model for Richmond students to follow. The Richmond Education Foundation is extremely proud to welcome Dr. Ryan Shinska into the Richmond Academic Hall of Honor, class of 2024. Dr. Shinska was unable to be with us this afternoon, but we are lucky enough to have his dad, Chris Shinska, who is here, and he is going to accept the honor on his behalf. So please welcome Chris Shinska to the stage.
Well, I wasn't. Is this on? Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but something just moved me in a conversation I had with Charlene Shoeboy before, and of course we're very proud of Ryan, but it just would prove to everybody, and maybe the students here also, that one person can make a difference in the world. You don't think you can do it, but I mean, and Ryan did all this with the love of Jesus in his heart, and that's how he started this clinic there when we packed him up, and he took 6 bags of dental supplies and got on a plane to some place we never even heard of. But, and now, as Margaret said, there's one person turned into, there's 35 on staff in Jinja, Uganda. But just know that you can do it, and have one person can make a difference in this world, and we can fix this thing if we do it all in the name of our Lord and Savior. Thank you.
Our first Athletic Hall of Fame inductee is Michelle Teschler. I've known Michelle for a long time, and I've seen her play in a lot of events through the years, whether it was softball or anything, and the one thing I knew about Michelle is that she could run. She could really run. But Michelle Teschler, 3-time All-State softball player, represented the Blue Devils on the 2005 National Championship softball team at the University of Michigan. During her time at RHS, Michelle was a standout on multiple teams, volleyball, basketball, and even a season on the girls' tennis team. But she excelled on the softball diamond. As a shortstop, she was the anchor and a leader on the defense beginning her freshman year. At the plate, she was a feared hitter. For her efforts, she earned a first-team All-State selection 3 times, as well as being honorable mention All-State her freshman year. The Detroit Free Press ranked her the number 3 softball player in Michigan her junior and senior season. The Times Herald, she was the Times Herald Player of the Year her junior and senior year. After graduating from RHS, she took her talents to the University of Michigan. She first saw time as a pinch runner and sparingly in the outfield as a freshman. Her role on the team in the outfield grew each season, and as she continued to contribute in big games for the Wolverines. Her senior year, the Wolverines were crowned national champions. In addition to her on-field accolades, she was an all-academic Big Ten once and a recipient of the U of M Athletic Achievement Award twice. Michelle truly embodies what it means to be a Blue Devil, providing an example to all young players. We are proud to induct her to the Athletic Hall of Fame as a member of the class of 2024. Michelle.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm gonna put this here. First, I would like to thank the Richmond Community Schools Board of Education and the Athletic Department. Specifically, I would like to recognize Superintendent Brian Walmsley, the President of the Richmond Education Foundation, Margaret Telto, and Athletic Director Preston Trend for their involvement in establishing the Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame. I stand before you today to express my heartfelt gratitude for your vision and dedication in creating the Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame at Richmond Community Schools. This remarkable initiative recognizes the outstanding achievements of our school's students and alumni, inspiring future generations to strive for excellence in both academics and athletics. The Hall of Fame is a testament to the hard work, dedication, and talent of our school community. It serves as a source of pride for our students and alumni, and I am honored to have my accomplishments recognized in such a meaningful way. Thank you again for your commitment to our school and your support of our students' academic and athletic pursuits. I'm truly humbled and honored to be inducted into the Richmond Community Schools Athletic Hall of Fame. Richmond softball was a cornerstone of my childhood. From my first T-ball game to playing for Richmond Girls Fast Pitch and the Foster Oilers, the team my niece Brooke now plays for, this community was instrumental in shaping me as a softball player. I remember watching my older cousins compete for Richmond softball and knowing that I wanted to be just like them, playing for a program with a rich history of success and tradition of excellence. My softball career at Richmond High School was a defining experience in my life. I'll never forget the thrill of stepping onto the field, the camaraderie of my teammates, and the satisfaction of achieving our goals together. From our thrilling victories to the lessons learned from tough losses, every moment shaped me into the athlete and person I am today. If you ask my teammates or family about the most memorable moment of my high school career, they might mention a game-winning hit or home run. But for me, it was a personal victory, convincing Coach Stewart to let me pitch. Yeah. After persistent negotiations, he finally agreed to give me one inning on the mound. I remember striking out one batter and diving off the mound to reach a ground ball, determined to justify his decision. Our goal, like that of every varsity softball team since, was to win our conference, district, region, and ultimately the state championship. We came close to achieving that goal during my 4 years, but it was finally realized by the 2016 Richmond varsity softball team. I couldn't be happier for them, and especially for Coach Stewart, who has dedicated over 40 years to this outstanding softball program as head coach. During high school, I earned varsity letters in 4 different sports: softball, volleyball, basketball, and tennis. Although I'm being recognized today for my accomplishments in softball, I would like to acknowledge and thank my coaches and teammates from all 4 sports who contributed to my success. After graduating from high school, I had the privilege of continuing my softball career at the University of Michigan. There, I was fortunate to be part of an incredible program and compete against some of the best athletes in the country. One of the highlights of my career was being a member of the 2005 National Championship team. That experience was truly unforgettable and something I'll cherish forever. During my time in Ann Arbor, I was often asked, "Where's Richmond?" by both in-state and out-of-state teammates, as well as fellow student athletes. Many assumed I was from Richmond, Virginia. Instead of accepting those assumptions, I always proudly corrected them wanting to highlight my hometown. I wouldn't be here today without the unwavering support of my coaches, teammates, friends, and family, many of whom are in the audience this afternoon. The coaches and staff provided me with the tools and opportunities to develop my skills and reach my full potential. Coach Stewart's passion for the game, dedication to the players, and unwavering belief in our team inspired us to reach new heights. Your encouragement and belief in me pushed me to strive for greatness. I'm forever grateful for your guidance and support. I would also like to acknowledge and express my gratitude to the late Dick Foster and the Foster family. His vision and dedication led to the creation of an exceptional travel softball program. This program provided countless opportunities for Michigan high school softball players to compete against top-tier teams across the country and showcase their talents to college coaches. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the most important people in my softball journey, my parents. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. Lynn and Dan. From my earliest days of playing t-ball to my final college game, they were always there. Their unwavering support and guidance were instrumental in my development as a player. My mom was the ultimate manager, always making sure my brother and I were on time for practices and games. She always put our needs before her own, and her sacrifices made everything possible. And my dad. My dad always had more confidence in me and my abilities than I had in myself. From my understanding, his conversations with Coach Stewart almost guaranteed that his daughter would be the starting shortstop as a freshman. He even built a softball field at our house, giving me every opportunity possible to perfect my skills and advance my softball career. So, thank you, Mom and Dad, for everything you've done for me. I'm also incredibly grateful to my brother David, sister-in-law Sarah, niece and nephew Brooke and Ethan. For their constant support, your love and encouragement have meant the world to me. And to my extended family, thank you for always being there for me. Your love and support have made all the difference. In closing, this honor is not just for me, but for everyone who has supported me along the way. I hope that my induction can inspire future generations of athletes to chase their dreams and never give up on their goals. Thank you again.
Our next athletic inductee, Mr. Jack Fenton. I don't think there's anybody in this room, at least I can speak of certainty on this one here, that I don't think anybody saw him run in his prime. We can only go on what we've heard, on the stories or what we've read. Potentially, maybe there's a film out there, I don't know. But the stories are great. And I know of certain from teammates that he had, that the one thing that he could do, he had one of the longest strides they ever saw, and he could run like a deer. And then he'd punt the ball, and you didn't think it was ever going to come down. And Jack Fenton was a standout on both the baseball and football teams at RHS. His speed and elusiveness with the football landed him a scholarship to Michigan State University, where he was a 4-year letter winner. News articles would often cite a defensive standoff between the two schools until number 19 took off up the middle or around the end to put the Spartans on the board. His 74-yard run against the University of Michigan in 1941 was the lone score for the Spartans at Michigan Stadium. For his efforts at Michigan State, Jack was awarded All-American honors and invited to play in the 1943 College All-Star Game. He was selected by the Detroit Lions in the 10th round, which was the 81st overall in 1942. Despite being a diehard Lion fan, he was needed back home to work the farm, the family farm. Upon returning home, his passion for football persisted. He was a player coach for the Richmond Merchants, a local semi-pro team that played other local teams. Despite being one of the more talented players in the league, Jack preferred the coaching side, only inserting himself into contests when necessary. The Merchants were perennial league contenders. After his playing days wrapped up, he continued to give back to the community. He served on the school board for a number of years, including and during the time of the construction of the Well East Elementary School. He spent his remaining years on that farm with his wife Vera and daughters Patsy and Annie. We are proud to induct Mr. Jack Fenton into the Richmond Athletic Hall of Fame from the class of 1936, and we invite his daughter Patsy Fenton to accept the award on his behalf.
Michelle, you're a tough act to follow. I do have some thanks to say.
Hold this down a
Okay.
little bit there for you.
Thank you to the committee for inducting my dad, for Preston for starting this whole Hall of Fame, and Margaret too, and Buzz for nominating him, for the committee for accepting him. He'd have been proud and humbled, and my family out there and friends who are here to see it. That's the best I can do.
That's good.
Our next Academic Hall of Honor inductee is Scott Malowitz. Scott Malowitz is a 1981 graduate. He received his BFA Industrial Design from the Center for Creative Studies College of Art and Design. Throughout his 30-year career, Scott has focused on the creation of physical spaces and emotional connections, dimensional, immersive, and experiential storytelling to realize compelling guest experiences. His portfolio includes theme parks, museum exhibitions, visitor centers, resorts, and Olympic Games, including the Magic Kingdom Fantasyland expansion at Walt Disney World Resort, the Ford Rouge Factory Tour, Legoland Deutschland, and many other transformative projects recognized for excellence and achievement by the Themed Entertainment Association THEA Awards. Scott has served on the International Board of the Themed Entertainment Association, the Board of Directors for the Society of Environmental Graphic Design, and was founding president of the Museum Committee for the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. He is currently the Executive Creative Director, Walt Disney Imagineering in Orlando, Florida. He served as the Executive Creative Director on the core team during the design, development, and construction of the Star Wars Galaxy Edge by partnering with Lucasfilm in establishing, defining, and developing the character, narrative, and overall aesthetic of the land, with particular focus on creating an entirely new place woven seamlessly into existing Star Wars history, vernacular, and aesthetic. Right now, he is serving as the Executive Creative Director for the transformation of Epcot, providing day-to-day site-specific leadership for the entire project team. On behalf of the Richmond Education Foundation, I am very proud to welcome my friend and classmate into the Academic Hall of Honor, class of 2024, Scott Malwitz. Unfortunately, this week, Scott was called away to work. He's actually on an airplane traveling right now, but he did create a video for us. And so at this time, Ethan, if you're back there.
Good afternoon. I'm incredibly honored and grateful for this wonderful recognition. I'd like to thank the Richmond Education Foundation, Richmond Community Schools, and the entire Richmond community. While I'm not able to join you in person, I'm proud to be able to accept this honor virtually here from Epcot at Walt Disney World on the occasion of its opening date in 1982. This place has inspired me and generations of dreamers. The mission statement of the Richmond Education Foundation includes these three words: academic, arts, and leadership. I'd like to use these three words to honor and thank a few influential members of the Richmond community. In academics, Virginia Wood challenged me to be curious. Focused on exploration and discovery, Ms. Wood opened my mind to a world of possible paths and multiple solutions. There wasn't one simple approach. Your path was your own. In my work here at Imagineering, I encourage my teams to challenge preconceptions and to explore multiple solutions. Virginia Wood taught me to remain open to possibility. In the arts, Tina Syverson Cole taught me to be creative. As one of the rare students who crossed the hall from physics classroom to the art room, I found a space free of constraints, open to new ideas and creative expression. Always encouraging, often challenging, and in love with the idea of artistic expression, Ms. Syverson pushed me to explore my creative side. Today, when challenged with scope and budget, I often think back to how this magic was created in this classroom, with kindness, unwavering support, and on a shoestring budget. Tina Syverson Cole taught me to freely explore creativity. As a true community leader, Dick Foster showed me what it meant to be both connected and selfless. As a young groundskeeper, umpire, and coach, Dick's commitment to girls softball left a lasting impression on me. His generosity was unmatched and rooted in optimism. Before the bus, now a Richmond athletic tradition, an aging extended van often served as team transport, gassed up and available at a moment's notice. Years later, in Southern California, I returned to coaching and founded a team that allowed academic-focused athletes a chance to compete at a high level across the state. My version of the van was an old Jeep Wrangler, jammed with gear, covered in diamond dust, and featuring the players' signatures painted on the hood. Dick Foster taught me to believe in the power of teams. Pat Hortis was the first design professional I ever met. Based in Richmond, Pat ran a small graphic design practice. He shared his knowledge and encouraged me to pursue a career in the arts. Pat, you were right. This job can be fun. This honor is really about a small town in Michigan, a town with an outsized commitment to education, leadership, and community. I am privileged to have learned the foundational principles of leadership, accountability, and teamwork from the teachers, administrators, parents, coaches, classmates, 1981, and community leaders of Richmond. For that, I am eternally grateful and hope this recognition will inspire the community to believe in the power of academics, arts, and leadership, to believe in curiosity, possibility, creativity, teamwork, and the power of shared dreams. Thank you, and let's go Blue.
Our next inductee into the 2024 Athletic Hall of Fame, Coach Glenn Noose. I got to know Glenn Noose a number of years ago when he would visit me in the store, and you saw right away the commitment and desire that was in his thoughts and philosophy, and you tried to help him out as much as you could in any way you could. When he came into the program, football team was not very good. And he built quite a program. You look out at Ben Bowl Stadium and Coker Field today, it would be hard to imagine Richmond High School not being a football power. That was the case in 1991 when Coach Glenn Noose was hired. The roster had dwindled down to less than 20 players after a few winless seasons. The turnaround wasn't immediate and certainly not easy. Coach Noose slowly got his players to buy into his system of hard work, discipline, and a team-first identity. The first 3 years, his team posted a 3-33 record. Year 4 saw the group of freshmen who came into high school with Coach Noose becoming seniors. The team improved to 6-3, but one final hurdle was still left to clear. Marysville was the class of the Blue Water area, winning state championships under their own Hall of Fame coach. It would take 2 more tries before the Blue Devils would dethrone Marysville, winning 13-2 in 1996, which would earn them a MAC League championship. From there on, Coach Noose guided the Blue Devils to 7 playoff appearances, 7 conference championships, and highlighting his tenure with a 12-1 district and regional championship season in 2003. Following his retirement in 2004, the program went through several changes, but rooted at the core of each was the ideals and successes of Coach Noose. This foundation paved the way for the successes of many Blue Devil football teams that came after. For that, we are proud to induct Coach Glenn Noose into the Richmond Athletic Hall of Fame 2024.
Afternoon, everybody. I got to say, after listening to those first few inductees today, I was already humbled for this honor. But holy cow, I'm not quite sure we're worthy here. Just a tremendous class and filled with tremendous people with their accomplishments. I do have to correct you though, Buzz. Okay. Real quick, my first year was actually 1990. And my last year was 2005. Everything else, though, pretty much right on and fantastic memories. I'd like to thank the committee members for establishing this great organization and for considering me and for deeming me worthy for this, once again, extremely humbling and fantastic honor. I want to thank everybody who took the time to come here today to celebrate all the inductees. I also want to congratulate the other inductees today, most of whom I know personally and can attest to their greatness and how deserving they are to achieve this award. Ryan Shinska was a captain of mine, played quarterback for us, and was just a tremendous leader in every way, shape, and form of the word. In fact, his senior year, he won the award Times Herald gives out, or at least they used to, I assume they still do, for the student athlete for the fall season or for the football season. Just a tremendous young man. And the work that he has done overseas with his dentistry and his organization and now in Nashville is just phenomenal. By the way, you can follow all the wonderful things he's doing because he does has a Facebook page, which I check every day because he's always up to something. He has several wonderful children, a couple of them are adopted, and he's just living a good life down there in Nashville. And I was messaging with him just the other day, and he said, boy, you're ever in Nashville, make sure you let me know, look me up. But just a fantastic young man and leader, and he continues those traits today. Michelle Tessler, wow. I watched Michelle play softball for 4 years, and my only question is how she wasn't All-State for 4 straight years, because she was phenomenal. And, you know, over the years, for my own daughter's softball travels, I've got to see a lot of great softball players. And to this day, I still have never seen a shortstop with the hands, the footwork, the glove, and the batting power at your level. So congratulations, well deserved. And by the way, I'll have you know that I did get to know Coach Hutch a little bit over the years through camps and clinics and various activities that my own daughter participated in. And, you know, when I introduced myself the first time, you know, I mentioned Richmond, and she knew right away. Oh, Richmond, Coach Stewart, Michelle Tessler, blah, blah, blah. And so from that point on, when I would see her, she would say, oh, Richmond, Michelle Tessler, Coach Stewart. And so, yeah, she's well aware of where Richmond is. No problem there. The 2 teams that are being inducted today, I got the pleasure to watch those teams. Coach Kelly's cheer team, boy, those girls work hard every day, every year, and their success is unparalleled. And boy, I tell you, people see them perform at competitions, but they don't understand the countless hours those girls put in year round. So a lot of respect for them. Quick side note, most of you probably don't know, I started my coaching career as a head coach at Cardinal Mooney, where Coach Kelly was actually a cheerleader and a student of mine. So I actually got to see Coach Kelly perform as a cheerleader way back in the day. Her brother, Kenny, actually played for me. Her father was a tremendous asset to me as well as a coach. So quite a bit of history there as well. The wrestling team that's being inducted today, filled with wonderful young men, led by Coach Hamlin. Quite a few football players on that wrestling roster as well, dual sport athletes, which we greatly encourage around here. Boy, what a dominant team they were. Dominant team. All the men with the blonde hair, as they tend to do for the state finals. But what a team that was, and very rightly so, being inducted today. So congratulations to all. I've always had trouble with, you know, Coach of the Year awards and different types of honors and awards and stuff, because those that know me know that we always, like Buzz mentioned, talked about team. We always preach team from day one. To us, team's that an acronym together, everybody achieves more. So you're going to hear me quite a bit when I talk today refer to we instead of me, because me was never what it was all about. And without so many wonderful people helping and contributing and doing what they needed to do along the way, we never would have accomplished what we ended up doing. Several people I'd like to thank here real quick. First of all, my beautiful, wonderful, and amazing wife, Jennifer, who's with us today, for all your support. There's an old coaching adage out there that behind every successful coach is a better woman, and I can attest to that. Very true. I'd like to thank my own father, who passed away a while ago, but my dad, who was an all-state football player himself and played a little bit at Illinois. In fact, he was there at the same time Dick Buckus was for a year. But anyway, my dad was inspirational in my coaching career. When my older brothers, Dave and Mike, Dave's with us here today as well, but when they were playing high school ball, I was in later elementary and middle school, and my dad was a scout, kind of an assistant coach, but mainly a scout for the team. And they played in the Catholic League. So what that meant is you never knew when Catholic League teams were playing, pretty much whenever they could get a field. Anytime from Friday night through all day Saturday and even Sunday. So for years, my dad would take me with him when we'd go scouting, and we would scout typically 2-3 games a weekend, every weekend. And he was a real tactician, breaking down the game, not just, watching the game, but studying it and understanding it and learning about formations and alignments and how you can tell and predict what's going to happen next based on the other coach's tendencies, which every coach has, which is why it's so important to scout yourself and understand what you're doing. But my dad was a real stickler for doing things one way, which was the right way, and the fundamentals of the game, and he passed that down along to me and helped make me the coach that I am today. I'd like to thank all the parents of the students I had the honor to work with for putting up with a lot of the stuff I had your kids doing, but most importantly is supporting your sons and encouraging your sons and reaffirming to your sons that, you know what, you need to listen to Coach News because he might just know what he's talking about, and he might help you guys accomplish, good things. There's another old coaching adage out there that the best place to coach is at an orphanage. Don't quite have the parent issues there. That was never a concern here for me at Richmond. We had tremendous parents that showed tremendous support, and I appreciate that to this day. The coaches that I had the pleasure to work with, once again, could not have done it without them. Many coaches over the years, I was in charge of, from the 7th grade program, the 8th grade program, the freshman, the JV, so I had to get coaches and train coaches and work with those coaches, for all those levels. And if it wasn't for those guys, and I would tell them, your most important job is not just to teach the basics of football, to make sure the kids enjoy playing so they come back next year. And what they did, the time they put in, the commitment that they shared, we could not have had the success without them. Just to mention a few, because in the beginning it was real thin, my youngest brothers, Ken and Kurt, twins, actually came and helped coach with the junior high programs. Coach Matt Berman, some of you might remember, he was with me at Cardamone. He came with me a couple of years and really helped out. Coach Slater, John Slater, who was actually hired the same year I was. We were the only 2 coaches on staff, and he was with me for many, many years as my JV coach. And once again, the success that we had could not have happened without these guys. The Hamlin brothers, George and Bobby, George came along the year after I did, and then Bobby soon followed. And you want to talk about coaches who are committed to doing things right and earning success. Their dedication to our program and what we were doing was always unquestioned and very welcomed. And of course, that worked hand in hand because, the wrestling connection, and a lot of the football players wrestled, the ones that didn't play basketball, et cetera, and kind of fed off of one another. So that worked out real well, indebted to those fine gentlemen for their coaching expertise and dedication and commitment to me. Coach Ed DeLore, who's with us today as well, just a tremendous help. Ed actually did a student teaching here with Ms. Stewart, who I know is in the crowd as well. And then he ended up getting a teaching job right away, I think actually the middle of the year. So he student taught first part of the year, and then he was hired to teach, and he's still here. He's the one that's left. And just a tremendous help and always a true asset to our staff and everything we were trying to accomplish. Coach West and Coach Bloink, over at the middle school for years, they held down, those middle school coaching positions for me and just did an outstanding job. Coach Bartels later came along and coached with us until he became the AD, Coach Dave for a few years, and of course, Coach Ladd, Dr. Ladd, who was a defensive coordinator for several years, especially when we were really rolling there in the late 90s, early 2000s. These gentlemen, their commitment, their dedication, their work ethic mean more to me than I can ever express to them. And we could have never earned the success that we earned without these gentlemen. Because me by myself, that was never going to happen. Completely and totally and forever indebted to those gentlemen. I also have to mention a couple of administrators here, because without their help, once again, this wasn't going to go. Bob Lukenbill. I'm sure Coach Hamlin When he made his introductory induction speech last year, I'm sure he mentioned Mr. Lukenbill as well. He was the AD who hired Coach Hamlin and I. Myself in 1990, George in 1991. The man had a vision for what this place could become, and he was right. And he was there to support us every step of the way. Not necessarily hold our hand and sugarcoat everything, but help us do things the right way. He understood that, and he helped us achieve what we achieved. And I don't think, looking back now, George, I don't think that when he hired us, he realized that he was hiring the two coaches who would go on to be the first two coaches inducted into the Richmond Hall of Fame and be the all-time winningest coaches in their respective sports. So Bob Lukenbill, if there's a inductee for AD somewhere down the line, he'd be at the top of that list, in my opinion. Dave Jackson, who took over after Mr. Lukenbill left, and he just kind of picked up right where Mr. Lukenbill left off. Once again, a man of high integrity, a man who was going to support you, a man who was going to help you deal with whatever issues came up, a man that was going to help you be successful and knew what it took to do so, being a former coach himself and basketball coach here as well. And then Mr. Bartels, who later stepped into that spot. I had the privilege to work with some tremendous athletic directors. And once again, without their unwavering support behind the scenes, the success we had just would not have happened. And lastly, but most importantly, I need to thank the players, because you know what? Nobody knows what those kids went through besides them, especially in those early days. Buzz mentioned the number situation we had. The first team that I inherited in 1990, we had 16 players, and that was at the beginning of the season before anybody got hurt. There were actually some moments during some games, one in particular I can remember against Marysville, who was a juggernaut and on their way to the playoffs and competing for another state title. You know, we only had 10 players on the field for a few plays. We were playing with 11, played with 10 for a little bit. So these players, especially those early days, my first three seniors, Brian Bulgarelli, James Simon, Dwayne Loper, and the juniors that were with them hold a very special and dear place in my heart, because they knew what they were up against. They knew they probably weren't going to earn success in terms of victories on the field, but we constantly talked about setting the example, how to play, doing things the right way, the relentless work ethic, team pride. We always talked about these things, and I told them, the younger kids are always watching the example that you're setting. Let's do things the right way. And those guys did. They're just special, special young men. Indulge me for a minute as I go back 34 years. I can't believe it's been that long, but explain and tell a few stories which led us here today. If you thought this was going to be quick, by the way, you obviously never attended any of my banquets. Okay. When I was offered this position in 1990, I reached out to several coaching friends of mine, coaches in the area, coaches from the league, and to get their advice. And to a man, they all said, don't do it. Anywhere else. Wait for a different job if you want to move. That place is not the place to go if you want to build a winning program. That community is different, has too many challenges. They've been through too much. Well, I guess I took that as a challenge. Maybe I wasn't smart enough to know any better, and accepted the job, and we got to work. But I want to share with you some things that we dealt with in those early years. And once again, many of you probably don't know and understand this, especially some of the coaches that I worked with who are with us that weren't here at that time. Off the field, we had very little equipment. It seems that the previous coaches weren't real high on collecting gear or taking care of it. We had no uniforms whatsoever, because once again, the previous coach didn't collect that stuff, and it was just gone. We had very low numbers, once again, 16 that first year, and we were determined to run the 5 teams, which we were able to do. So I'm recruiting kids. I'm talking to kids. We had very good basketball going on at that time in the school's history. Now, one of those kids played football, not one. And they were very good athletes, and I would talk to them, and you know what they would do? They'd laugh at me. They'd giggle. Not necessarily laugh at me, but laugh at the idea of playing football because, God, that team sucks. That team's terrible. And in football, if you're bad, if you're terrible, guess what? It hurts. They didn't want anything to do with that. And of course, football is your biggest spectator sport. And who wants to go out to the field when most of the school is out there to watch you take a beating and watch you lose consistently by 30, 40, 50 points, sometimes 60 or 70 back in those days. Not a fun thing to do. So just getting those numbers up was a real struggle. My first year here, I'm hired to coach. We're working through the summer with my 16 kids, and things weren't real good as far as teaching contract-wise. Another situation, but the teachers actually went on strike back when that was allowed, back when it was legal, back when that happened. Teachers were on strike. Like, you know what, I was hired here to do a job. I'm talking to these kids about, school and academics and doing things the right way. I didn't go on strike. I'm every day walking across the picket line, and I was the only one to do that. And I know that wasn't a popular thing to do, but like I would talk to the kids about, you know what? A lot of times doing the right thing means not doing the popular thing. Doing what's right is what's most important. I was hired to do a job, and that's what I was going to do. A lot of people don't understand this or know this and don't need to, but I was ostracized by my own colleagues in the teaching profession for a couple decades because of that. That didn't go away quickly. They're on strike, they're fighting for something, here comes this new guy, and he's walking across the picket line. I had bomb threats made to my own house because I'm going to work, I'm trying to take care of kids, and the old members of the union who were there at the time didn't understand that, didn't appreciate it, and they didn't care to understand it and appreciate it. But that's how it was. By the way, the following year, the next summer, I'm told halfway through the summer, by the way, we're having layoffs. And the way it worked back then, last one hired, basically the first one who's let go. And so I was actually laid off. I didn't have a job. Superintendent at the time is telling me, well, hang in there. Something might happen, something might work out. Well, the science job that I had that I was teaching was actually taken by our middle school counselor. Her position was eliminated. And she actually had a science degree, which she never used, but she had a science degree. And at the time, that's all you needed, and you could bump out a teacher who was lower seniority. So I was bumped out. I'm without a job. And I stuck with the coaching because our superintendent was telling me, Dr. Mine was telling me, hang in there, something might happen, something might happen. And I kid you not, the day before school started, the day before the first day of school, that counselor who was taking my science job was hired in at Memphis as a counselor. She got that job. So we continued to work, and a couple days later, we had opening day, which we happened, but I was going to have to resign if that didn't happen because I obviously needed a job, and coaching wasn't going to quite do it, especially back then. Anyway, also, what were we dealing with back then? I was told I was the 11th coach in a 12-year period. That's not good. You have the kids learning something new if they're learning anything every year, and what they are learning probably wasn't good. They're learning a lot of bad habits. They're certainly weren't learning about hard work, commitment, and dedication, and all the things they needed to learn in order to be successful. We had no staff, none whatsoever, coaching staff, until a couple weeks after I was hired Coach Slater, so it was him and I. And then once again, I had to kind of piece things together. My younger brothers, Coach Berman from Cardinal Mooney, we made it work. In those early years, I was actually coaching 2 teams. I was coaching the varsity. And then right after, I was coaching with the younger kids, knowing that I had to make sure those kids were being taken care of. And that turned out to be the first group that gave us our first winning season a couple years later. That had to be done, and that's what we did. Whatever needed to be done, we found a way to do it. On the field, Buzz mentioned we weren't very good. He's being pretty kind. We were actually listed in USA Today as one of the worst football programs in the country. In 1989, the year before I got there, the team was 0-9. They scored 3 touchdowns the entire season. The entire season, they were shut out 7 times. They were outscored 423-22 that year. The season before that, they won 1 game. They had 9 straight losing seasons. That's what we were dealing with on the field. And not only that, but at the time, we were in a league called the SCAL, S-C-A-L, St. Clair Area League. We've actually switched conferences 4 times in my coaching career. It hasn't changed in a while since then. But the SCAL then was Marine City, Marysville, Imlay City, Croswell, Lexington, and St. Clair. Well, those first 3 were juggernauts. They were competing for state titles on a regular basis. They were making deep runs in the playoffs. So we not only needed to turn things around, but we needed to turn things around in perhaps the toughest Class B league in the entire state. There was no easy going there. We understood. When I say we, it's the coaches, Mr. Lukenville and I, that in order to do things right, to make any success last, to build a consistent winner, we needed to get to work. We needed to be meticulous about doing things one way, the right way, the Blue Devil way. And that's exactly what we did. Progress was expectedly very slow, but the effort was relentless and uncompromised. We were building a program full of winners, both on and off the field. Simply put, we dedicated ourselves to earn success every day in every way. We were committed to doing things right. And I need to say, you hear that word commitment, and people use it all the time, and I'm convinced most don't know what the word means. We used to talk about that all the time. You see, people get the word commitment confused with convenience. Say, yeah, I'm committed, but I have to go and do something else right now. I can't work out right now. I got to go to this party, or I'm going to go to this concert. Or I can't get in the weight room because of this and that. Commitment is a full-time job. You cannot treat commitment like a light switch and flick it off whenever it's convenient. Do not confuse commitment with convenience. We had to teach that. And these things we had to teach. I know George was on the same page with me in those things. We had to teach work ethic. We had to teach doing things the right way. We had to teach, you got to be at practice every day. Things these kids just didn't understand when we got there. 16 years later, and by the way, I'm often asked, geez, Coach, you had a lot of coaching left in you when you retired in 2005. What gives? What's going on? We got a good thing going here. Let's keep it going. I was fortunate to have most of my coaching career before I met my wonderful wife. In fact, I didn't meet her till 1994. My son Noah was born in 98, my daughter Tessa in 2001. So I was at the point where my wife was kind of becoming a single mother. Because if you're a dedicated, committed coach doing things the right way, running a football program, you're not around a whole lot. You're just not. And I'll never forget my last year coaching, and I knew it was coming, but my son Noah, who's a teacher now, by the way, living in the Boston area, my son Noah was playing in this 3-on-3 basketball league in a place by my house where we lived in Lake Orion. And he was 4 years old. I missed every bit of it. I didn't get to see one single game because I'm at practice, I'm at a game, I'm doing what I needed to do to be a successful coach. I was a teacher and a coach long enough to know that my kids were going to have their father around. I needed to do that. And I spent the last 20, 24 years coaching almost everything my own kids did, from flag football to softball, a lot of softball across the country, travel baseball. I got to coach my son's own middle school football team, which is incredibly fun, but I got to be a big part of their life, and that was just my priority. That was more important to me, and I can live with that. I'm very happy about that. But 16 years later, we had earned 83 victories, which is the most any coach in this school's history has ever earned. And I do like to use the word earned. 7 league titles, 6 in our last 7 years. Should have been 7 and 7. We can talk about that afterwards if you want. The school's first district championship, the school's only regional championship, the school's only 9-0 regular season in 2003. No team has ever been 9-0, not before then and not after them. There was a team in 1958. Were you on that team, Buzz? No, okay. A little before Buzz's time. There was a team in 1958 that was 8-0. Okay? Well, we were 9-0, got to host first 3 playoff games, and ended up 12-0 before losing in the semifinals. I had a very good game to DeWitt. My last 9 years, we were an all-state academic team. 9 consecutive years. Not a single practice would end where I wouldn't tell the kids, get that homework done. Do what you got to do. Take care of your priorities, which is in the classroom. When we first started getting things going in 1994, some of the teams we played the most, and once again, our schedule changed quite a bit because we were constantly changing leagues, from the SCAL to the MAC to the STA to the Blue Water Area Conference. But when you look at, since 1994, the teams we played the most on our schedule, Imlay City, we were 9-1 against. Algonac, we were 11-1 against. Almont, we were 7-0 against. And then there was Armada. I need to tell you a story about Armada. So when I got here, I didn't know anything about this thing they're calling the Jug, which, if you don't know, is this annual trophy that Richmond and Armada played for. It used to be the traditional opening day game. I wasn't aware of that. We lost them the first year. We lost everybody the first year. Second year, I'm hearing about this Jug, and I'm like, I got to see what this Jug is all about. So I kid you not, I actually took a day in the summer and I went to Armada High School looking for this Jug in their trophy case. Didn't know if it was mythical or what. And there it was, sitting in their trophy case. An orange and black side with all these scores of Armada, and a blue and white side with a couple of scores of Richmond, beating Armada. I took a picture of that trophy, and I had it plastered on every kid's locker in our locker room, and we talked about the Jug that whole summer once practice started. We happened to win. That was our first win that year. We happened to win the Jug that season. And unfortunately, we gave it back. But we took it back again in 1994. And I'm proud to say that since 1994, I never gave that Jug back. Never. We were 10-0 against Armada the rest of the way. Very proud about that. Once again, 83 victories, and I remember them all, which is pretty amazing because my wife will tell you I can't remember what she asked me to do around the house last week. But I want to highlight just a couple of those games for you because they got us to where we are. And the memories are very vivid in my mind. I told you about how difficult our conference was back in the 90s, early 90s. Well, in 1993, Imlay City was a juggernaut. They were beating up everybody. They had the player of the year in the state of Michigan as a running back, rushed for 2,000 and some yards, Rick Granata. They had an offensive lineman who ended up playing for the University of Michigan. They were a very good team. We're playing at their place, and with no time left on the clock, they scored, went for the extra point, and they faked the extra point because they weren't happy with beating us 49-15. They wanted 50. So they faked the extra point with no time left on the clock to get 50. Their coach, who I was never a huge fan of, to be honest, came over afterwards with a grin on his face. Said, "Oh, sorry about that. The kids kind of did that on his own." I said, "No problem, coach. We're not going to be bad forever." Shook his hand and walked off. They go to the state finals that year. The very next year, 1994, they're 2-0. beating teams up. They're ranked in the state mainly because of the success they've had previous years. We're actually 2-0 as well. And they came to our place. And we ended up taking care of them pretty good, and we beat them 32-7. A team that was in the state playoffs the year before, we just hammered on our home field. And this is where it started to make the turn, because before then, our kids were so used to losing. If I call a timeout, if we're in a close game and I'm talking to them, they're all panicking. They didn't know how to handle it, and they're watching the clock. They're watching the scoreboard. Like, let's just relax. Let's just play. Let's just do what we've been coached to do. And from this point on, we started to do that. Started to play with the expectation to win instead of looking for ways to fail. In 1996, Buzz mentioned this. I'm just going to mention a couple games here. Please bear with me. In 1996, arguably one of the biggest wins in school history, we're playing Marysville. Marysville is 7-0. They'd already won a state title previously. They're ranked number 2 in the state. And their coach, Coach Braun, legendary, he's coming to our field with 2 busloads of kids. We dressed 19 that day. They come out for warm-ups, and they jog around the field, and they had the field completely encircled with 80 kids jammed onto those 2 buses. We had a helicopter from Channel 4 come over because this was going to be a milestone victory for Coach. I think it was his 300th win or whatever. So they came out, take pictures. They landed on the baseball field, which I'm sure Coach Delore wasn't real excited about, but they landed helicopter over there. And those 19 kids that night, wearing that Richmond uniform, put on a show, and we beat that team 13-2. 13-2. And we were all over that team. And we know a lot of those kids, and for weeks and months afterwards, we would have some of those kids, like their quarterback, Dave Greenwood, would tell some of our kids, man, you guys just beat us that day. You beat us up. We couldn't believe how sore we were after that. I mean, we just got after them. We're up 13-0 late in the game. I'll never forget, I call a timeout. We're backed up against our own end zone. The smart play here is to take a safety. And I go out there and I tell the kids what we're going to do. And Tim Jocks, who is an outstanding middle linebacker for us, looks at me and says, Coach, we want to shut out. So, okay, but they didn't want to leave and let this team score. Beat that team 13-2, just a momentous victory. That, by the way, was the last game on the old field. That's called the old field now. The old field with the kind of like birdhouse press box that Buzz used to have to climb in. We had the old wooden bleachers. So I got a nice chunk of sod out of that field, knowing that it was going to be torn up as we put in the track in the new field, new bleachers, everything else. Boy, and I take good, I put that sod in my own yard. And you better believe I take good care of that portion of my yard every year when I'm fertilizing and watering and everything else. It's growing strong. It's the best grass I have. The best grass I have. Couple more games here real quick because it kind of shows the evolution of where we were. And in 2000, which was Ryan Shinska's year as quarterback and leader for us, we're playing down in Ann Arbor, Gabriel Richard, and Ryan couldn't play that game because he was sick. He was dressed. Coach, if you need me, I'm ready to go. But he was sick, and we were winning the game. It was close. It was low scoring, but we're winning, and then they score on a Hail Mary with under 2 minutes to go in the game. Oh. Ryan comes up to me and says, Coach, I'm ready. I said, all right. So I put him in, and he marched that team right down the field, and we scored on the very last play of the game to win that game 16-13. And once again, when you expect good things to happen, and when you have leaders like Ryan, you can do those things. That same year, speaking of Armada, we had a really good team that year. We're playing at their place, and they have the lead late in the game. We have the ball, a couple minutes to go, and we're driving, converted a key 4th down with Nick Peterkowski running, and all of a sudden we get Ryan with time running out, throw a pass down the left sidelines right in front of their bleachers and student section to Jimmy Stark, who took it in for the winning touchdown. When you expect to win, things like that can happen. Things like that can happen. It doesn't get any better than that. In 2002, moving along, we're playing at K-Pac, and we're both undefeated in the league, both 5-0 in the league. We're 6-0 overall. They lost to a bigger school opening day, but anyway, we're both undefeated. It's going to be a league championship. And they call us during the day and say, hey, you know what? It's supposed to rain tonight. Let's postpone the game to tomorrow. Mr. Bartell says, what do you think about that? I said, no. We kind of pride ourselves on playing in tough conditions. When it rains, we're practicing. When it's hot, we pride ourselves on playing in tough conditions. We're playing. They weren't happy about it. We go there, and I'll tell you what, during the warm-ups, it poured like crazy. It just poured. We're off the field. The rain passed. We go out on the field, and we end up beating that team 47-6. Jimmy Zima ran for 5 touchdowns that night. That was for the league championship. They didn't want to play that night, and they acted like it once we took the field. In 2003, that magical 12-0 year, we're playing up in Yale, and they're undefeated also at the time. And we go to Yale, and I'll never forget it because it was their homecoming. And the bus got held up downtown Yale, right there in M19. And there were several kids, they get on the back of the bus, on the back bumper, and they're bouncing the bus up and down and stuff. I didn't say anything. Our kids weren't real excited about that, whatever. Big game. They had a good team. We go out there and we put a beating on them, 30-0. 30-0. I actually lived in Yale at the time, and the next day I was at the grocery store, and I had a couple parents come up to me, and they said, geez, Coach, are you kidding me? Geez, you could at least kept it close or something. It was a magical night. Our kids did a great job. Later that year, when we're hosting those 3 playoff games, we finally got the Marine City monkey off our back. People don't realize and understand that when we were struggling to make that next jump, we always were faced with the Marine City obstacle in the districts. And at the time, Marine City was over 800 kids, one of the biggest schools in Division IV, and we were a borderline Division V school, so we were one of the smallest. So that was a big mountain to climb. Well, we got them on our place, and we're down 7-0. We got a field goal right before half at 7-3, and then we ended up busting a big run on them that Sean Misko ran, I think it's 70-some yards for a touchdown. And I got to tell you, Coach Hamlin's over here, and I could tell you Coach Hamlin stories more than you'd want to hear, okay? All right. Anyway, but that night, one of the things I remember the most is when Sean busted loose. I mean, he wasn't touched with what we schemed and what we ran, and Sean could really move, and he's sprinting down the field, and lo and behold, on the sidelines was Coach George Hamlin, and he was the only one on the field that night running faster than Sean. He's sprinting down the sidelines going crazy because Sean's about to score the game-winning touchdown. That clip has given me more joy over the years than you'll know, George. That's good stuff. The very next week, we played Clintondale, and that was for the regional championship. School's never been in a regional game, let alone playing for a regional championship, and we're playing Clintondale. Big, strong, physical team. And what was real satisfying about that win was that the Marine City coaches were really close with the Clintondale coaches because of a family connection there, the brothers, the Scarcelli brothers. But anyway, so we're playing Clintondale, and we got the Marine City coaching staff up in the booth with all our stuff, all our information, and they're trying to help, Clintondale beat us. We always joke, we always talk about Coach Lohr, Coach Ladd, and I, and that Thanksgiving must have been, I would have loved to have been at that Thanksgiving at Scarcelli house, because we beat them both in 2 consecutive weeks. But that game was a testament. Those 2 games, by the way, Coach Bartels will tell us that by far those were the 2 largest crowds we've ever had at our stadium. They were stacked deep all around the field, people just trying to get a glimpse of this undefeated Richmond team. But Clintondale actually scored a touchdown. We're only up 2, and they're going for a 2-point conversion. And Brian Grabowski from behind pulls down the county 40-meter dash sprint champ from behind. Broke through the line, made a play he made every day in practice against us, pulled him down, kind of saved the day there to secure that win for our first ever regional championship. And one more game here, just for fun, because it's kind of at the end here, and it kind of goes to everything we're talking about. In 2005, we're playing district game at Marysville, and we had this game well in hand. And then late in the game, they had a couple big plays. They scored a touchdown, they did an onside kick, scored another touchdown. All of a sudden, the game you thought we were in control of and about to win, we're behind. We then went on a 21 play drive 7 first downs, and Ronald Johnson kicked the game-winning field goal as time was running out. And what's so important about that game, not just that we won it, was that every week I would take that offense line at the end of practice, and everybody else was going in, and we'd go do a little extra work on the sled. And I would tell those guys, we're going to need you. There's going to come a game where we're going to have to put the drive of your lives together. And it turned out that was exactly the case in that particular game. Anyway, I've always been a fan of sports because of the life lessons that it teaches, the lessons of hard work, dedication, and commitment. And it has always been my sincerest hope that the lessons learned by the individuals whom I had the pleasure to coach help make them fantastic fathers, fabulous husbands, productive, proud members of society. I hope we're successful at that. Lastly, go Blue forever. Thank you very much for this humbling honor. I appreciate it.
Our next Academic Hall of Honor inductee is Dr. James Maskey, Jr. Dr. Maskey was a 1994 graduate. He received his BS in biology and his MS in biology from Northern Michigan University. He received a certificate in geographic information sciences and his PhD in biology from the University of North Dakota. He was a professor at the University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota, where he served as an assistant professor, associate professor, and biology program chair. He taught a wide range of courses, which included conservation biology, medical microbiology, and botany. Through Dr. Maskey's many publications, the entire world's population of moose could benefit from his research on parasitic infections in the moose population. He had a passion for environmental issues, specifically in the health of moose, and his impact in this area will positively affect moose populations everywhere, including the moose population in the state of Michigan. Dr. Maskey has educated students from diverse populations at the University of Mary, and his students will carry on the legacy of his passion for wildlife and the environment. Dr. Maskey passed away in February at the age of 47 after a brief battle with brain cancer. Upon his death, Monsignor Shea, the president of the University of Mary, stated, "Dr. Maskey served as chair of the biology program. We all knew of Jim's passion for wildlife conservation and the environment. He was the recipient of many awards and grants, including a National Science Foundation STEM grant. He brought his devotion to wildlife management into the classroom, and both colleagues and students were beneficiaries of great stories about the populations of moose in northwestern North Dakota. A true scholar, Dr. Maskey was widely published and frequently presented his research in North Dakota and nationally. More than anything, we remember Jim as a gentle, kind, and caring man who respected all life. It is truly an honor for me, on behalf of the Education Foundation, to welcome the late Dr. James Maskey, Jr. into the Academic Hall of Honor, class of 2024. At this time, I'd like to welcome up Dr. Maskey's brother, Josh, who is going to accept this honor on behalf of Jim and his family.
All right, Coach News gave me some more stories to go through real quick before I. Congratulations, Coach. Just on behalf of our family, just want to thank the Richmond Community Schools for this honor for my brother. I know we were both proud to grow up here and left a lasting impression, in our lives. Probably the most important thing to take away with all of his academic achievements that he had in his life, I think even, until his passing, he never quit learning and never quit sharing the knowledge he had with his students. And that was definitely the most important thing to him. And he would be super proud to receive this award. And I'd also like to thank Miss Morella, thanks Jennifer, for nominating for him for this award. Thank you.
Our first team inductee to the Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2024 is the 2002 varsity wrestling team. Last year, we inducted a lot of firsts for teams and athletes. Both of this year's inductees were not the first championship teams in their respective sports, but the dominant manner in which they earned their championship is what set them apart. Their season record was 49-5, which still stands as a national record for dual meet wins in a season. This mark is unlikely to ever be eclipsed due to the changing landscape of the sport. Of those 5 losses, all were to state championship teams in either Michigan or Ohio. Same goes for the 3,591 team points. It is not only a MHSAA record, but also another national record, one that is unlikely to be surpassed. These victories came as a result of a veteran team, many of which were members of the 2000 state championship team. Being the second state title in 3 years, this cemented Richmond's place as a wrestling power. We are proud to induct the 2002 varsity wrestling team into the Athletic Hall of Fame and invite the members of this team on stage to accept their awards. With Coach George Hamlin.
Can everybody hear me okay? Is the mic working all right? Yeah. Okay. I'm George Hamlin, and I was fortunate to be one of the coaches of this team that, as Buzz Schmidt said, set the national record for dual meet wins in a season. So do me a favor and humble me, because I didn't prepare anything. Give me a second and just close your eyes and take a look and get yourself a United States map in your brain. Now let's just get our Michigan mitt and slide down into that. And then let's get on our little dot right here in Macomb County at Little Richmond. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about these men because they're not people that are going to brag about themselves, but I can brag about them because I had the front row seat for what they accomplished. In 2000, many of these wrestlers were on that first state title team. We were unranked. No one thought we had a chance. We qualified, and then all of a sudden we upset these juggernauts and won the state. Then the next year when they wrestled, we started out 0-7-1. And everybody's like, what's wrong with Richmond? Well, we were young and we were learning. We were getting better. We went on a 40-win tear and made the state semifinals, and we got upset by Otsego. And Otsego beat us because they had 9 wrestlers come down a weight class to match up with us, and they knocked us off by 4 points and then won the state championship by 21 points. And many of these athletes were there, and they remember it vividly, I'm sure. We were devastated. But Richmond Wrestling's mantra has always been, imagine what a team can accomplish when no one cares who gets the credit. So I went to work on our schedule. I scheduled everybody that was anybody for these guys. We're 49-5. We lost twice to Davison. They were ranked 8th in the country, and we lost to them. We gave them the closest match they had. They were undefeated Division I state champions. We lost to them 42-28 at the finals of the Super Duels. Now, when we got to the finals of the Super Duels, we beat 4 teams there, including Granville, which was the state runner-up. We lost twice to Lowell. And those of you that follow wrestling know our parents are extremely knowledgeable about wrestling. And we were at Lowell with a former Lowell wrestler as an official, and our parents were stomping feet, and they were upset with, justifiably so, but we ended up losing to Lowell twice. Lowell's won 10 straight state championships now, and they won the state championship that year. And we lost to Sandusky St. Mary of Ohio, who was the Ohio Division state champions. But, and I appreciate Buzz mentioning all of those things, but we were not ranked to start the season, and then as it got in, we were only ranked as high as 5th. So when we went to districts, we had to wrestle Goodrich at Goodrich to win the district, and it was a close match. It was 34-30. Now, I can't remember where I put my phone from an hour to an hour, but I can remember everything about this. Am I wrong, fellas and ladies? 34-30 was the score. Now, I can't remember the score, but we had to go into Montrose, at Montrose, and Montrose was multiple time state champions, and they were ranked number 1, and then we had to wrestle Carroll. We wrestled Carroll first, and they were ranked number 2. So we knocked off Carroll first, and then we wrestled Montrose at Montrose, and then we beat Montrose. So we win the regional. And they'll all tell you, if they're honest, when we went to state, it was anticlimactic because we just beat the soup out of everybody that was there to win that state championship. But when you think about this little town, and I'm pretty proud of it in my time here, and you think about all the high schools throughout the nation, all these things, it's still the national record. Richmond's won 8 wrestling team state championships. I was blessed to be part of 6 of them. And I don't compare wrestling teams because they're like children. They're all just different. It's just how it is. They all had their success in their own ways. But none of them hold a national record. And I defy you to research, because I've tried to find any high school team in the state of Michigan or any nationally that's maintained a record for 22 years, the national record. Now, some of the state records we set have been eclipsed by other teams, and the only team that came close to what these guys accomplished was another Richmond team in 2010. They were 48-4. They almost tied the mark. We lost to Oxford. It was a Division I state finalist because they had 2 kids fake injuries and they had a new coach, and I don't even go into the details. Otherwise, that Richmond team would have tied it. But there is no more deserving honor for these group of men and women, our statisticians, because they stood the test of time. 49-5. And they beat 6 of the 8 Division I state qualifiers, including Granville was a state finalist. They beat a dozen teams that qualified for the state finals. So they deserve it. And I used to say all the time, why do you wear your ring? I wore my ring tonight, fellas. and ladies. I wore my ring. You know why? Because I can. And the reason why I can is because these people worked their tails off and took on all comers and wrestled the best. And that's why I'm proud of them that they're being inducted as a team in the Richmond Hall of Fame. I'd like to make one other special shout out to two of the coaching staff that were here. Brian Schwartz, immediately to my right. Brian was a coach on 2 state wrestling championship teams, and Brian is also the first state champion in wrestling in the history of the school. And then Dennis Skatska, longtime friend, these are my friends, was an All-American. I coached in high school, and he came in and helped us so we could get over the hump of where we wanted to go. We're still friends. Wrestling's like a brotherhood. When these guys get together, it's like it never ended. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to Richmond Community Schools, and I want to thank all of you for attending tonight, and I hope and honoring all these people.
Make sure we get you a plaque there, too. He's gonna go deep, I think. Our next team inductee to the 2024 Hall of Fame is the 2012 Varsity Competitive Cheer Team. Richmond Athletics and the dominance of the Richmond High School competitive cheer program goes on. Although they were not the first state championship team in school history, they were the first since the sport was adopted by the MHSAA. After several seasons of qualifying for the state finals and coming agonizingly close to the gold, this group of athletes and coaches were on a mission. They rolled through every competition, taking on some of the best competition across Michigan. They carried an undefeated record to the Blue Water Area Conference Championship, District Championship, Regional Championship, and into the state finals. There they maintained the perfection and claimed the championship. We are proud to induct the 2012 Varsity Competitive Cheer Team into the Athletic Hall of Fame 2024 and invite the members of that team on stage to accept their awards.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelly, and I am blessed to have been the head coach of this amazing team over here. And came to Richmond in an opportunity with Mr. Bartels, basically talking to me for a year and a half to get me to come here. I had technically already retired from coaching. I stand here today as still the head coach and going into my 17th year when I told him I'll give you a year or two. So that being said, while this group was not the first state title in cheerleading at Richmond High School, what they do as cheerleaders is very different than what was done with the first state championship. And like Buzz said, it was adopted as an MHSAA sport, which makes things a little bit different. And it took a while for people in Richmond to understand that, no, it's not just about cheering on the sidelines or being a support group for someone else. In 2011, we came extremely close to a state championship. Katie, who is out here today, blew her knee out in warm-up while I was at the coaches meeting. The reason I bring that up is because she did compete in third round, and we did manage to still become runner-up in 2011. In 2012, I gained assistant coaches that I didn't have before. Milena, who graduated in 2011, became one of my assistant coaches and taking on the middle school, and is still my assistant coach today. So there's also been other girls that have been on the coaching staff years in between. We've had Angel, we've had Joanna, we've had Sarah Ann, who's not here. Lauren was part of everything later on after she graduated. The reason that I bring that up is because Richmond cheerleading is a family. It has been from the very beginning and continues to be. Yes, I am extremely proud of them for their state championship and all the work that it took to get there. But what I am most proud of are the nurses and the mothers and the hairdressers and the business owners and the HR director and the doctors and even someone, is she still in London or is she in Portugal? She's in London. Kelsey Chasm is part of this team, and she is over across the world as a fashion designer. So we have a lot of different successes that have come through this, and you hear a lot of babies from over in our area because they just keep coming. I feel like every week or two I become a pseudo grandma. So while I've had them as my girls, now they're bringing in other people into the world, and it's so nice to be able to follow all of that. Yes, what they did was not easy. They ended up going 106-0 for the season that year. That means that we beat, yes. That means that we beat 106 teams through that season, not just in Division III or Class B or lower teams. I'm talking big schools, Class A teams that we were able to beat at competitions that we went to. At the state finals, their final score was 781 point something, and the second place team was 765. The last team at the state finals, because there's top 8, only scored 725 points. So that goes to tell you how much they dominated the state finals. They were a wonderful group to work with, to be part of. They definitely set the trend and the tone because we have now won 6 state titles. And this program lives on because of the work that they put in and did for the program here at Richmond. So congratulations, ladies. I'm so proud of each and every one of you.
Our final Hall of Honor inductee is Mark Myers. Mark is a 1981 graduate. He received his Bachelor of Science of Mechanical Engineering from Western Michigan University, a Master's of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Purdue University. He became a member of the Licensed Society of Professional Engineers in 2002. He spent 34 years with General Motors Corporation, retiring as a GM Executive Global Director of Vehicle Performance Engineering. He led a global performance team of 300 performance engineers. They developed total vehicle performance for all GM vehicles globally. His team launched many award-winning vehicles, including the Chevrolet C8 Corvette, Camaro ZL1, Hummer EV, Cadillac Lyriq EV, Chevrolet Silverado, and GM Sierra LD and HD pickups, to name a few. Mark was a vehicle development engineer at Milford Proving Grounds and released vehicle dynamics for the 1995 Buick LeSabre and the 1997 to 99 Buick Riviera and Olds Aurora. He served as Advanced Vehicle Performance Manager at the Warren Tech Center. He led a team of 25 engineers in developing future vehicle architectures on full-size trucks, mid-size pickups, and GM's first hybrid SUVs. He also was Global Vehicle Performance Manager at MPG, where he led a team of 50 performance engineers in Michigan and 35 international engineers in Seoul, Korea, Shanghai, China, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Rüsselsheim, Germany, where they developed mid-size sedan vehicles for total vehicle performance on the Buick LaCrosse, Buick Regal, Chevrolet Malibu and Impala, the Cadillac XTS, and the Opel Insignia. Mark is an individual who exhibits the utmost in ethics and integrity in every facet of his life and work. Through all of his professional accomplishments, he credits those who worked with him for helping him to reach his individual successes. Mark is the president of the Jason Myers Memorial Foundation, which funds preventative education to young adults and teenagers to understand depression and thoughts of suicide. His organization has provided funding for educational presentations to local high schools, including Richmond High School. It is my deepest honor to be able to welcome my dear lifelong friend and classmate to the Academic Hall of Honor, class of 2024, Mark Myers.
Thanks for all, oh, let me get out. Thanks, Margaret, for all that. It was just a wild ride at General Motors for 34 years, and to make it executive, just unbelievable. And to be in charge of all of GM's vehicle performance for all globally, including Corvettes, Cadillac Escalades, heavy-duty pickups, to Chevrolet Equinox, Hummer EVs, Cadillac V-Series, just the whole thing. And leading a team of 300 engineers as an executive, I often wondered, how did a kid from Richmond, Michigan make it to be the executive over that team? I had to pinch myself many times. I said, it's not possible. Then I realized a few years later, it was actually the reason why I made it to executive was coming from Richmond. And all the, what do I say? All the integrity, hard work, drive for excellence, I learned teamwork, relationships, leadership, so many to thank that got me there. And you know, if you come from a big school versus small, there's so many differences. And to make it to executive was just truly an honor. And coming from Richmond, I have to thank my family first, my parents, Bernie and Ruthie looking down right now. I know they'd be very proud of how they raised me, growing up on a farm, and all the hard work, tearing apart snowmobiles, tractors, you name it, working aluminum siding with my dad, and my mom, Ruthie, all the schoolwork and hard work she pushed. Certainly my wife in the crowd here, Carol, my kids, Amanda, Hannah, and Ryan, thanks for keeping me grounded. When I came home, I was not the most important executive anymore. I was a nobody. They kept me grounded. Mom was the boss. Sacrifices were made many, many times. In all my global travel, I was going, Germany, like I said, to Seoul, Korea, Shanghai, and I'd be gone for 2 weeks. And, finally we got all the global problems solved. And Carol would say, don't you have somewhere to go? So maybe it wasn't sacrifices at times. My 6 siblings, one in the crowd here. Thanks for all the love and support. We surely battled growing up, my goodness. But now we are thick as thieves, and our love is so strong. And as Margaret mentioned, the Jason Myers Memorial Foundation couldn't be prouder. And to help the kids, and actually I will say one thing, I did meet one kid, a 10th grader, that we stopped the suicide on, and it was in this auditorium. I'll leave it at that. I'd like to thank a lot of Richmond teachers and coaches. I could go through them all, but just one, Mrs. Wood. Again, Mrs. Wood, who was inducted into the hall last year. She was instrumental in getting me so enthused in science, and I took every advanced class she had. It really led me to the engineering road. Coaches, Randy Lockey, way before these wrestling kids. We had, how many 51 titles we had with STA. But he really taught me the drive for excellence and never settle for second place. Finally, my classmates. So many deep friendships I have throughout the years. 43 years now I've been graduated from Richmond High, but my friends are some of the best still to this day. And the class 81, they're not quite right. Reason being, who has a class reunion every year? The class of 81. And I was wrong after our 20th. I said, Margaret, no one wants to have a class reunion every year. She said, put it together, we'll make it happen. Sure enough. 23 later, I've been wrong, years later. But all in all, again, just coming from this small town, it's just amazing. And to make it to executive and just be so proud of this town of doing that. I'd just like to say I was very fortunate to be raised here and to graduate from the Richmond High School. Go Blue!
Our final inductee into the Athletic Hall of Fame for the class of 2024 is a longtime program contributor, Mr. Pat Schweiger. We on the committee feel Mr. Schweiger is the model of what this category represents. Someone who has passion for athletics has allowed our programs to reach the heights they have. If I tried to list every one of these contributions, I think we would be here until 2025 induction ceremony. Mr. Schweiger is a Richmond graduate of the class of 1976. He was a member of the football team and the recently formed wrestling team under Coach Lockey. It's there someplace. Okay. Not enough can be said about the impact Mr. Schweiger has made to the Richmond athletic program since his graduation. He was very involved with the wrestling and cheerleading programs as his children came through RHS. His fundraising efforts provided a first-class experience for all the athletes in those programs. Meals, hotels, equipment, facility improvements were all made possible through his decades of fundraising efforts. He would also volunteer his time and skills as a carpenter to complete some of the facility improvements and projects. Although he has 6 children of his own, he made countless other Blue Devils feel like members of his family. We are proud to induct Mr. Pat Schweiger into the Richmond Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2024. There's water there if you need. Oh, gosh darn.
Well, this is not my forte, but everybody knows my wife wrote this. I can build this auditorium, but I can't write. Good afternoon. I would like to thank the Richmond Community Schools as well as the Richmond Athletic Department for the honor of the induction into the Hall of Fame. I graduated from Richmond High School in 1976 as a student athlete participating in football, wrestling, and baseball. All 6 of my children also graduated from Richmond High School as student athletes participating in variety of sports. As a carpenter, I began helping along with other building frames and state championship pictures for the Wall of Fame in the wrestling room and the wooden benches in the locker room and baseball dugout. I began fundraising mainly for the wrestling team as a way to help out and set aside the costs for the parents. Successful sports teams required an additional funds that their budgets did not allow to cover. We are fortunate to live in a town that has many business and individuals that are generous with their donations to help our student athletes be successful. Even though our youngest child graduated in 2015, I still enjoy helping out with the Mother's Day flower sale and fundraising for our athletes. Again, thank you for this great honor.
You did good, Pat.
Please join me in giving another round of applause to the entire class of 2024 Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame inductees. I want to extend my sincere, heartfelt congratulations to each of our inductees for their remarkable achievements, as we saw here today, and express our deep gratitude for the contributions that you have made to Richmond Community Schools. Your stories inspire all of us to reach for greatness, to chase our dreams, and to honor the legacy of those who came before us. You are a testament to the enduring spirit of Richmond schools and our students, and we are incredibly proud to have you as members of the Richmond Academic Hall of Honor and Athletic Hall of Fame. Prior to the conclusion of today's ceremony, if at the end all the inductees could come on stage and we'll do a group shot of the class of 2024. This does conclude our ceremony. Thank you for being part of this memorable celebration, and congratulations once again to inductees. Go Blue Devils.